Eat it!
I'm not superstitious, but I am a little stitious.
Barons win! Barons win!
Cody Jansen stopped 92 out of 95 shots, including a penalty shot in overtime. Somehow he still only wound up the third star of the game.
You like that?
Jansen has a heart.
You're smoking crack!
And hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of World Hockey Report. Yes, hello. I'm back. The Inside of the Insiders, Tyler Kuehl here inside the ProRocc Studios, guys. I tell you what, man, this has been, first of all, a very hectic weekend for yours truly. I'll get to that here in just a moment. But it's okay. We're back. We're live here inside the ProRocc Studios. Thank you all very much here for watching us, guys, at World Hockey RPT on Twitter. And if you want to follow us, be sure to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, wherever you feel like following us, wherever you feel like. I'm okay with whatever you do. I mean, if you want to watch us on Facebook, go for it. If you're one of those people, cool. If you're on YouTube, awesome. On the Hockey Podcast Network, awesome indeed there as well. I tell you what, guys, this was an exciting World Junior Championship tournament that we just witnessed. We'll be sure to get to all that, as well as also Women's Worlds preview as well. Women's World Championships starting up this coming Thursday. I am jacked, but I also have some thoughts on that because, let me just put it this way. I found out about some broadcasting notes regarding that tournament here, but we'll get to all that as we move along here on this lovely Monday afternoon. It is beautiful and sunny here in West Michigan, here in the ProRocc Studios. Got to remind you guys also that if you want a good hockey stick, be sure to check out ProRocc Hockey. All the big brands keep raising their prices, making the game more unaffordable than ever before. But you don't have to fall for that, guys. ProRocc Hockey, a true Canadian company with real morals, offering players of all levels top-of-the-line sticks at a fraction of the cost. Lighter, more balanced, and more customizable options than anything off the rack. Check out the family-run business today at ProRocc.com. Like I said, just me today as well. So if you are tuned off by that, I do greatly apologize. We had some, we'll just say scheduling conflicts with some of our guests that we were planning on having today. A few things unfortunately fell through, but that's okay. Like I said, guys, we are going to have a great time today because first of all, it's great to be back in the studio, back in the saddle again, as Aerosmith once said. And also because, kind of a bit of a recovery day for me because, I may or may not have been at a bachelor party this weekend. So Saturday night, I was the only person that was hooping and hollering when Mason McTavish literally saved Canada in Edmonton Saturday night. And then Kent Johnson doing that thing where he likes to dangle and do all that fun little jazz that he's always good at. Yeah, I was the only one very not able to drive at a party and lose my mind watching the games off my phone. It was a great time. Like I said, we'll get to all that here as part of today's program. Be sure to get involved in the chat as well. If you're on the Hockey Podcast Network and or Facebook or wherever you're watching us, be sure to check it out and let us know what you think. We did have a couple of questions get thrown into our preview post, if you will, coming from good guys down over there at the Devil State of Mind podcast. So be sure to throw in your questions as well if you have any reactions as well. Or when we get to the Women's World Championships preview, if you have any questions on that as well, throw them in the chat. Let us know where you are, where you're watching, where you're listening from. Well, I mean, if you're listening on the podcast form, can't really take comments that way. Just then, hey, that's when you go and tweet us at World Hockey RPT. So that's how it works. See. First of all, if you didn't notice, hey, Canada won. Woohoo! Yeah, Canada taking care of it. And I tell you what, I went into this tournament like a lot of people, just kind of figure out what was going to happen. Jacob loves THPN saying Mason is the best goalie. Mason McTavish is the best goaltender, making the Nikki Lidstrom-esque save. We'll get to that game here in just a moment, but I was very concerned. Jacob loves THPN. Mason is better than Logan Thompson. That's a lot for Jacob to admit, guys. He's on the Logan Thompson bandwagon hard for the Vegas Golden Knights this year. Dylan Kaiser jumping in there saying Jacob. He is in there as well. Dylan Kaiser, what's up, buddy? What's up, Dylan? Dylan's being a good guy. Sup, Dylan? They're all getting in the chat. You can chat with them as well. And yours truly, Tyler Kuehl, here today. But going into this tournament, I just was trying to figure out what was going to happen because we lost a lot of big talent. No big players for Slovakia. Juraj Slafkovský not going to play. Simon Nemec wasn't going to play. Owen Power wasn't going to play. Shane Wright wasn't going to play. However, the guy we talked about in spades, Mason McTavish, was going to play. And I tell you what, Mason McTavish, a guy that, let's be honest, did not have to play at all. You have to remember this. He did not have to be in this tournament at all. He was going to go to Anaheim. There's no question about it. And he came out to play, and he played hard. He was exactly what we expected out of him, maybe even more so, because I think a lot of the focus was put on Shane Wright and Connor Bedard in December of last year when this tournament originally started, right? I just think to myself, how did Mason McTavish just revel in that pressure? And I'll say this. Yes, I know we'll get to the fan side in a second, the attendance. We'll talk about that in just a little bit, all right? But maybe the pressure was off given his summer, but he dominated. He was the tournament MVP, 8 goals, 9 assists. Obviously, the big save in the gold medal game against Finland. And that save in itself was ridiculous because, first of all, 3-on-3. And I know a lot of people don't like it when it comes to a championship game, but we have to remember the IIHF only a few years ago instituted the rule that they don't have shootouts to determine gold medal games anymore. I see a few of you guys jumping in the chat, letting you get thinking about what happened with the Americans. We'll get to the American side here as well. But 3-on-3 overtime in the gold medal game, wide open, both teams getting chances, big saves galore on both sides. And then Dylan Garand gets beat, and I literally thought to myself it was over. Like, this is how they lose? Like, this is 2019 all over again. Noah Dobson breaks his stick. Ray Ferraro goes, oh no, here they come down the wing, right off the stick, over the shoulder of Mikey DiPietro. That's how Canada lost then. This is how they're going to lose now. Dylan Garand out of his net, 3-on-3, no one back there, but Mason McTavish just says, I got this. My dad didn't need a helmet, and which backhands it. Someone played some box lacrosse back in the day, I tell you what. Makes the save. They go back down. Kent Johnson dangles, gets stopped the first time, follows it up. Canada wins. And honest to goodness, the end of that was insane. Like, people are saying this is a Canada heritage moment, that save on the line. They even reviewed it. And I thought, oh my gosh, they're actually reviewing. Like, I wondered at first they were reviewing for like offsides or something. Cause I'm like, that's how we're really going to end this game. But then they showed the video of the save. And that's all it did was like, made the rest of us go, oh my gosh, that's the greatest save in the history of sports, let alone hockey. Every single sport that has a goalkeeper. Sorry, any of you footy fans out there. That game was, it was crazy to watch how that game ended. And credit to Finland as well. I mean, Alexei Heimosalmi was solid. Joakim Kemell, Nashville's got a great guy going down there. Holy moly, he really stepped up. Aatu Ratti was amazing as well. Finland really was, I believe, the second best team. Just because they played, I'm not going to go, they played the right way. No, they just had a deeper group, it seemed like, and they were able to put it all together. And I know some people are thinking right now, and they're saying, well, it's because they had an easier path to get to the gold medal game. And, well, you know, I don't know. They had to go through Group A, which ended up having Latvia, which I'll get to here in a second, my thoughts on Latvia. But they had to go through Sweden, I don't know. They were good, but they weren't great. Sweden, for some reason, over the last few years in any international tournament, Olympics, under 18s, world championships, world juniors, they've just been disappointing to me. I always feel like there should be more from them. And then the world junior has been a long story. Ever since they won in 2012, it's been a decade now of lackluster finishes and bronze medal game appearances and losing and having guys throw medals into the stands in Buffalo back in 2018. But I really thought Finland played them hard. And of course, they had to play Germany in the quarterfinals. And yeah, you know, I thought Finland did exactly what they had to do. Now the Americans. Danelle Weaver jumps in there asking, since you have the title Women's World Preview, didn't know women had a tournament as well. I'll let you know, Danelle, here in a little bit. We'll get to that closer towards hour 2. Let me see. How many points did Riley Kidney have? Riley Kidney? What? Who's Riley? Let's see. I don't think he had any points. Did he have any points in this tournament? I don't think he did. No, he did not. That's he played in 3 games, didn't have any points. I wonder if that's from the last tournament, because I don't think he played. He played for this year's tournament. I think no, he didn't get any points in this year's tournament. Jacob. So sorry about that. But Acadie Bathurst Teton product kidney there. But I was for the Americans. Let's get on that page here, because this was the first question I saw. Cheesy Bacon Burger in that mouth. That's a very odd name to have. He said, "Bro, how did USA lose? They were doing so good." Well, here's what happened. Hockey happened. And what we saw in the quarterfinals was not just the Americans losing. The Americans losing was the highlight of the day, because if you watch all 4 quarterfinals individually, you see the underdog teams just play their minds out. Because reality, I talk about Finland beating Germany. Germany at one point was out shooting the Finns quite a bit in the second period. Finland turned it on late to actually win the game. But what ends up happening is then we watch the Sweden-Latvia game, and we see this insane performance. Latvia itself, I mean, I didn't expect a whole lot from Latvia. I'm not going to lie, because once again, we talked about it in spades, how they were just going to be the team that's there because Russia can't compete, right? That was the story going into this tournament. But then something strange happened. They lost in a shootout to Slovakia, which ended up being a big point for them, gave them some confidence. And they beat Czechia in the final game of group play. I did not expect that to happen at all. That really threw a wrench in a lot of people's plans. And Bruno Boveris, I think, was just playing out of his mind at that point, because he had all the confidence in the world, and he made some big saves against Sweden. Unfortunately, the Emil Andre shot just beat him. That ended up knocking out Latvia. And then, of course, Canada. I think people say, oh, Canada won 6-3 over Switzerland. Well, that game was always like a 1 or 2 goal game for most of it, so I'm not going to count that one out at all. But I will say that it was a fun tournament. Some people thought it was boring. Some people thought it was dumb. I thought it was a fun tournament still, given A, the circumstances, and B, just the amount of action we got to see. We didn't have this typical, 4 teams were amazing and then everyone else was dog poop. It was, yeah, there were 4 teams that were great during group play. However, once the medal round came about, it was, yes, there was Canada making their way through, but it was not easy. It was not easy. And so the Americans going up against Czechia, I mean, Thomas Sahanek, I think, just he's a great goaltender. I knew that going into this thing. But what happens is that the Americans, the Canadians, the Swedes, and the Finns all took their opponents lightly in the first round of the medal round. In the quarterfinals, they all thought this was going to be easy, 5-0. We're all going to be ready. Let's take a day off where we have the semifinals on Friday. Well, that wasn't the case for any of them. The only difference was that Czechia, who finished fourth in their group, only had Jan Misak, only had David Juracek, and had a good goaltender in Thomas Sahanek. Hudson Graham saying hello in the chat there. Excuse me. Had to let that one out. Hello, Hudson. Good to see you there, buddy. Danelle's talking about the Islander stuff there. We'll get to that here in just a second, Danelle, because we do have that. That's a lot of news today. That'll be, we get to our news portion of today's broadcast, today's show of World Hockey Report. Thank you all for joining us here on this Monday. But, for what the World Juniors was, I was happy the way it went. And yes, let's talk about right now. First of all, I will talk about the broadcast on TSN, because for when they weren't the American games, so I got to watch the TSN feed, they did do what I asked before the tournament, and that was discuss the ongoing investigation into the 2018, going into Hockey Canada and Sport Canada. Had Rick Westhead on, had Sheldon Kennedy on. And for someone that wants to know more and wants this to be right, I think that was a good job by TSN. It wasn't just, an interview like in the Sports Center studios, in Scarborough. This was, these guys, they were at Rogers Place. James Duthie was on the panel there in the arena with them talking about it. That's what I really liked about that whole setup. So, kudos to TSN for I'm not going to say making the best out of a bad situation, but keeping it in the limelight and keeping it in the frame of consciousness for fans that were cheering for Canada, like myself and a lot of people across the country, but understanding that, hey, the crest that was, because most of the time it was on their shoulders, yes, the Hockey Canada crest, that crest, it's still not a great crest right now, but the boys that are playing are representing their country, playing under the banner of Hockey Canada. Like that's how and people ask me, how do you cheer for Canada? And I've asked a lot of other my friends to the north the same question. How are you guys going to cheer for this? And it's like, well, you cheer for the players that are representing their country that are playing under the banner of a governing body. It'd be the same thing if it ever happened down in the United States, the USA hockey emblem that we're going to see in the upcoming Women's World Championships. It'd be the same thing. It'd be players that are representing their country under a USA hockey moniker. So that's I think how a lot of us took it. Hudson Graham saying, "Go Canada." Yes, sir. Go Canada, Hudson. Hudson, probably not from Hudson Bay, but we'll just, for the sake of this discussion and Hudson being on the program, on the chat today, we're going to say he's from Hudson Bay. Somehow he has electricity up there. Don't know how he does it. But so yeah, let's talk about the attendance here. Okay. I know Janner and them kind of talked about it a little bit. We kind of expected this though, right? Because here's the thing. Whenever in a typical World Junior year, so what we were trying to do back in December, you have two venues. You have the big venue for the host team and, maybe the other big power that's part of the group A. So in this case, Edmonton with Canada, Finland, and whatnot. And then you have Group B, which will play at a smaller rink. So which was going to be Red Deer prior to this whole thing. So an easier building to fill out. And that's why when we were talking with Alex Micheletti before the tournament, we were talking about how, why Minnesota would work, because there's so many rinks in the area. You put them in the women's rink, the Mariucci Arena, XL Energy Center there in Minnesota and whatnot. And I said Detroit because, hey, Little Caesars Arena is right over there. And then you have literally USA Hockey Arena, 40 minutes away in Plymouth, 30, 40 minutes away in Plymouth. So, a smaller rink that you could fit the Group B with the lesser popular teams given the region and what have you. So when your first game of the tournament, once again, this is no disrespect to anyone involved, but when your first game is Czechia versus Slovakia, without, like I said, the superstars that are, could have been if they had Slakowski, if they had Nemec, guys that were drafted 1, 2 in the draft, you're right. It was pretty darn empty. And when you have Latvia and Finland after that, and even, yes, the Americans, of course, didn't really sell a whole lot because, well, if you're talking about, short traveling, there's Minnesota that's close to Alberta, and then there's Washington, but there's really nothing in between. I mean, there's North Dakota, but, how many people are going to travel up to Edmonton still? I mean, we're still kind of in a smaller form in the middle of a pandemic, so people think it's still kind of hard going back and forth from what I've been told from people that have done so, unless you have, a pass that you're working, because I've heard that's makes things easier. But when you're saying, hey, I'm going to go to Edmonton to watch a hockey game in August, shoot, there's a reason why a lot of people were kind of, I saw a lot of tweets and a lot of social media following about this tournament, but from some people that I know that typically would follow this, they kind of didn't because it's August. So yeah, you're right for the big games. And we saw it in the opening few games for Canada and throughout the entire tournament. Even Canada wasn't selling out. I believe, what was it, 80, 75, 80% full for the championship game, for the gold medal game on Saturday. I mean, I know people say in a typical, year, it'd be full. Well, I'm going to chalk that up to A, it's August, and B, yes, I still say it. The World Junior fatigue is real. It is severely real because, once again, this is nothing to do with, I don't know if a lot of it may have to do with Hockey Canada and people taking that personally and whatnot and saying, I don't want to support this by going to this tournament. That could be an effect in this, but I just think it was a victim of circumstances. Because now we're talking about 3 attempts now to try to have the World Junior Championships in Edmonton. They had the bubble tournament in 2021. They tried it in December, didn't work out. And they tried it again now in August. So yes, there were a lot of people in Rogers Place on Saturday night, but you're right. It took them to get to the gold medal game for people to be like, you know what? It might be worth it to go drop some money on this thing. So that's why when we go to Halifax and Truro, I still say this. Canada should not have the tournament for 4 or 5 years. I'm on it. I'm serious, guys. I mean, it's a thing where I believe that you need to find a way to freshen it up. There's been so many tournaments. Yes, for a lot of us, it's great because it's in Canada or the United States. It's awesome because you want to know why? It means like when we watch the Women's Worlds, I don't have to make sure I have to be up by 9 a.m. to watch a hockey game, even though it's actually really not that bad. It's not Olympics bad. How about that? It's not watching games at 11 o'clock at night or 1:30 in the morning. Like it's not that bad. That was rough. But I think I just feel like, Halifax in Moncton, I think they'll be better because, smaller venues, junior hockey barns, and also the Maritimes haven't gotten a whole lot of love. I mean, wasn't 2017 the last time that portion of the country, Quebec, or in that part, the Eastern Seaboard, has gotten the World Junior Championships? Because remember, it went in 2015, it went Montreal, Toronto. They split Montreal and Toronto. The finals were in Toronto. And then in 2017, 2 years later, with Finland jammed in the middle there, it went Toronto, or Canada went from Toronto to Montreal. And even that was, I think, the first time we all kind of saw some pretty light numbers for games for World Junior Championship games. So let's hope that it's a little bit better coming up in Halifax. I hope so too. I know you guys do as well, because let's be honest. Like I said, Alex and I, we talked about how great that 2010 final was in Saskatoon. Why was it great? Not just because it was a fantastic hockey game between two NHL teams, pretty much, given the fact of how many guys have moved on to play in the National Hockey League and have done pretty good since they got up here, but also the fact that atmosphere. I don't think there was one American in that house outside of the guys that were on the ice playing the game. That's what made that so much fun. So maybe we'll get that kind of vibe in Halifax and in Moncton. Moncton obviously will be the Group B. I do believe they set the groups yet for the tournament. I believe they did. Let me see if I can. I didn't pull this up because I am an idiot, of course. I also got a lot of stuff pulled up too, because like I said, we're going to be talking about the women's worlds here. I'd say in about an hour's time, maybe a little bit shorter than that. It's not going to be a super long show today because, like I said, unfortunately, things kind of happened where kind of had to readjust our schedule and our agenda today. Let me see if I can pull up for next year's tournament. Let's go. Can I do 2023 World Under 20s? 2023. There we go. And Halifax and Moncton, I believe they set the groups. I remember Gord Miller said something about it. Let's go to teams. Yep, Group A will be a little bit of a change in the group. Canada, Sweden, Czechia, Germany. So remember, Germany was in Group B, and Austria as well. So Germany and Austria flip to Group A, while in Group B, the United States, Finland. Oh, yeah, Finland and Sweden switch. United States, Finland, Switzerland, Slovakia, and Latvia. So Slovakia moves down to Group B, Latvia and Slovakia. So pretty much they just flip-flopped Canada and the United States. I guess that's the best way I can describe this now that I'm actually trying to figure it out on the fly like this. Czechia, though, stays in Group A. It's going to be interesting because Canada and Sweden in the same group, because remember the longest time they weren't. And that's why people really believed that Sweden was so good and had that long round robin run of all those consecutive victories, even though they, somehow flamed out in the knockout stages, is because Canada was never in that same group. So there was a couple times I know they were, but that was kind of the running gag. So now that streak is over, obviously, let's see how Sweden does. I wonder how many players are going to be involved here. I don't know if Simon Edmondson's going to be back. I know Yzerman likes to see his guys play in these tournaments, so we might get to see Sweden, have him again. Obviously, Jesper Wallstedt, who I think he was one of the best goaltenders in the tournament. I think, he got post-tournament honors for sure, and deservedly so. I think there were times that Sweden looked out of sorts, and he had to play big. So, certainly kudos to him. Maybe get him back in the game as well. Hudson says the Canada-Finland game was probably the best World Junior game ever, in my opinion. Hudson, that's a great take. However, it's a wrong take. No, it's not a wrong take. I still believe the 2010 game might have been the best. Maybe right now we can say that. And you know what? Maybe 10 years from now, we'll look back in this final between Canada and Finland and say, oh man, this was the best one ever. And yes, probably the best finish ever, just be given the fact of the chaos that led up to it and the 3-on-3. But it's hard. It's so hard. Even though Canada lost that game in 2010, the build up for that game, how the game played out, the dramatic end of regulation with Jordan Eberle being heroic once again, scoring 2 goals, and then Derek Stepan ruining everyone's days and lives and months. Literally, it took Sidney Crosby to score a golden goal in 2010 in the Olympics in 2010 to say, all right, guys, we don't need to worry about the World Juniors anymore. Because could you imagine also if the U.S. had won in 2010 in the Olympics, swept the World Juniors in Olympics that year? both in Canada, I'm pretty sure Parliament would have dissolved and chaos would have arisen. It would have been crazy. Hudson also says, or Jacob says, excuse me, he's going to the World Juniors in Halifax. You know what? If I can convince my wife after we cut this big tree down, it's going to cost a few $1,000s. Maybe I can pony up some money and make a trip to the Maritimes in the winter, which my wife would hate, but I wouldn't care because, hey, it's junior hockey barn, Maritimes. I mean, we always say we want to go to visit the Maritimes, but however, I think my wife always has the idea that it'll be during the summer when it's warmer and not awfully cold. And of course, Maritimes, it's right on the Eastern Sea there. It's kind of, it's a little bit of a wet snow up there, and it's kind of rough at times. So I can handle it. I don't know if she can, but hey, maybe we'll just have to go and join Jacob up there. Jacob says he is 1 hour away from Halifax. So now here comes a mass land liver. I don't know the best way to describe it. Mass land liver. Here comes the joke from the mass land liver. So you live an hour away from Halifax, don't you? So that means you live in the ocean? But hey, there's the jokes about Maritimes being a bunch of islands. I'm kidding. Listen, I have no problem with the Maritimes at all. I've seen pictures of them. I've had people that visit them. They say they're beautiful all the time, and rough winters, I'm sure. But yeah, no, that is a. Jacob says, "Yep." He says, "Yep." He lives in the Atlantic Ocean. It's okay. My great uncle, who actually was in the Canadian Navy, lived on a carrier ship a little bit off. I can't remember how many miles off the coast of Halifax, but he says that's why he says the reason why the Lord rested on the seventh day was because he built Halifax last and thought, "Yep, that's enough. We're done." He said that was at the end of the Lord's tenure of creating the world because Halifax was the last thing he put together. Anyways, with that, let's take a pause here. Talking about the World Juniors enough, I think. Obviously it's been a great tournament, and I can't wait to talk about it in 3 months when we prepare for it again around American Thanksgiving. Get ready for another great tournament in Halifax. Like I said, Jacob's going to be there. But on the other side of this break, we are going to chat about some NHL news a little bit. We're going to talk about some signings that happened today. Donnell Weaver's going to get his fix in, talking about the Islanders, and I'm going to give my thoughts on stuff that kind of Janner talked about a little bit on Friday as well, right here on World Hockey Report.
College football is back, and it's time to enjoy the tradition, the fun, and the great offers from DraftKings Sportsbook. To celebrate the best time of the year, right now, new customers can bet just $5 on any team and get $200 in free bets instantly, win or lose. If that's not enough action, you can also place the same game parlay for a shot at an even bigger payout. Just combine multiple bets into one, like which team will get the win, which team will score first, and more. I love that. Whoever scores first and who wins, that's my go-to every time college football Saturday, the absolute best. DraftKings is a safe, secure, and reliable. Best of all, you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code THPN. Bet just $5 on college football and get $200 in free bets instantly. That's code THPN only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Use THPN when signing up on DraftKings Sportsbook today. Travel the world and watch sports with Sports Travel Tours. How about the English Premier League? Get up close at one of the F1's Grand Prix from Monaco to Singapore and beyond. To the NFL packages, the games in London, and to any across the U.S. Watch the Oilers and Flames with road trip packages to Vegas and beyond. Or if you're a hockey nut like us, the Spangler Cup is a must-see event. Watch Canada this December in Davos at our favorite championship of the year. For details and more, visit sportstraveltours.com today.
Get ready to win with Billy's Smelling Salts. Billy's Smelling Salts are for gamers, athletes, and competitors alike who want to get in the zone. Us at World Hockey Report teamed up with Billy's, and if you use the promo code WHR when checking out, you'll save yourself some money. The highest quality smelling salts in the game and at the best price point if you use the promo code WHR on Billy's. Billy's Smelling Salts. Get ready to win.
And welcome back, everyone, here to World Hockey Report here on this Monday, August 22nd. You know, it's still weird. I'm like, hey, look, August 22nd, we just recapped hockey, live hockey. Now we talk about the Women's World. We did that, it was August last year when that tournament happened. So I guess I can't say that it was too odd to be talking about live games in August, but I guess for the guys, I don't know. Then again, we did have a Stanley Cup handed out in August too. So I don't know. The last few years have just been a blur. So maybe we shouldn't think that having hockey in August in the summer is an odd thing. Maybe that's just me being a little bit weird. So let's get into some news. So got to jump back down to the chat room here just to pull up what Danielle Weaver was talking about earlier. Danielle Weaver talking about how the Islanders making some moves today. Well, the Islanders announced some signings. Dobson, 3 years. Romanov, 3 years. And finally, Bellows, a 1-year contract. Prove it contract, I think. Yes, I would agree with that indeed. The contracts that Danielle is discussing and pointing out are the ones that are as followed. First one, you mentioned Noah Dobson. That's probably the big one because he is arguably the biggest prospect right now in the Islanders pool. I know some people might not think that as maybe people don't think of him as the greatest because he hasn't quite panned out yet. I think he stepped up. Hudson Cram saying lots of hockey in August. You're right. Forgot about the Hlinka, Hudson. Thank you very much for mentioning that as well. Hlinka's always, of course, in the summertime as well. So it's always in the offseason. Sorry. Back to the Islanders here. Noah Dobson has been a guy that has slowly developed into, call it because the Islanders, they're getting a little bit lighter on the blue line. He's become one of their top 4 defensemen. And 3 years at $4 million sounds like a very Lou Lamoriello contract, first of all. 3 by 4. I mean, remember, that's what Antoine Roussel and Jay Beagle got. Now, I'm not comparing, that's what, Leo Komarov got. But those are the numbers also that Jim Benning gave Beagle and Roussel. I'm not comparing Noah Dobson to those 3 players, I should add, but I do like this idea of, you have 3 years, Noah, to see if you can become a $7 million and $8 million. The issue I have here is that I'm not sure if he's ever going to reach that potential. He was a very highly touted prospect coming out of juniors, no question about it. Did great things with Acadie Bathurst and obviously Randa on their way to a Memorial Cup. But I don't know if his game is able to develop enough into being an $8 million defenseman, a $9 million defenseman. He's got the hands. He's great with the puck. I think he's gotten better, certainly in his defensive zone. But the issue that I see with Noah Dobson is that he's not going to be a shutdown guy. If he can develop into a solid, balanced two-way defenseman, I think his value will increase. But you can certainly see what made him great in junior hockey, the offense, the vision with the puck. It's not quite fully translated yet to the National Hockey League. Now, I'm not going to say that's because he didn't get enough time in the minors or in the pro ranks, because I really thought he was a good enough defenseman coming out of junior to make that jump. And at times he's shown that. He's a power play defenseman. He can move the puck up top. He can quarterback your power play. And he might get a lot of that time this year, given a lot of transition with the Islanders defense core. So I'm interested to see how he fits in. Alexander Romanov, that was kind of not a surprising one, but the fact that he got 3 years at $2.5 million, not a surprising. We knew there was going to have to be a signing of some sort eventually with him after he was traded with him, and was it a 4th round pick from Montreal for the Islanders' 1st round pick, which ended up being the 13th overall pick this year. And, I think what Romanov does, he brings a little bit more depth to where they need it, because with Alexander Romanov, I know some people are actually a little disappointed that the Islanders actually did, or to me, the Canadians traded him away. They didn't think he got enough love. But what Romanov does is he gives a little bit more depth on the blue line, which after Andy Green, after Zdeno Chara, even though, yes, Chara was 150 years old last season, I believe that you need to find a way to bolster it up, and you bolster up with a guy that can play everyday minutes in the NHL. I'm going into this year thinking that the Islanders, they will be better. They'll be better than they were last season, but I don't know if they're going to be 2021 New York Islanders, 2020 New York Islanders, the 2019 Islanders that made it to the second round. I don't know if they're even that good. Now, yes, Robin Lehner, of course, and Thomas Greiss had an amazing year that year, but my point is I don't know if they're that good and that deep to make a run like that again. Obviously, the coaching change can be a different philosophy, no longer Barry Trotz. And so with this group, I like these moves that they're making. Lou, of course, I mean, we shouldn't be shocked though also that Lou Lamoriello waited until this point to not announce all these signings. And Lane Lambert, I'm not going to say he's been given a bad hand, but it's just kind of funny how all this came out after Nazem Kadri signed the $7 million contract with the Calgary Flames. Now, then, of course, we were hearing that the Islanders were involved and in the running for Nazem Kadri. So that might have something to do with these signings coming out late. The other one that Danelle mentioned, Kiefer Bellows, 1 year by $1.2 million. Kind of a say, hey, do you want to make, I think for him, it's, I want to make $4 million. Okay, well, show us you can be a $4 million hockey player. Because Lou has been known to give that out to guys. Shoot, he signed Matt Martin for 5x5. Remember that, kids? Toronto does. It wasn't a great time. But so I'm interested to see what the Islanders do moving forward. Danelle did jump in the chat and said, NHL hockey will be back next month, but preseason hockey, just happy to watch some local hockey again in the New York metro area of the Islanders, Rangers, and Devils. Yes, the MSG crowd, as I call them. I call them the MSG teams. If you play on MSG, you're an MSG team. I mean, my goodness, if this were football, they'd have their own division, the MSG division. I don't know if that's a thing or not, but it'd be funny if it would be, right? Like, that'd be kind of interesting to have Buffalo, the Rangers, the Islanders, and the and the Devils all in one division. But then again, then you have to do like the NFC, AFC, and then it would just be an unmitigated disaster. But wouldn't it be fun, though? Wouldn't it be kind of interesting? But then you'd have to worry about the playoff systems. And, of course, the NFL only has 7 teams make the playoffs on each conference. So, hey, hockey only still has 8 on each side. So, hey, why not? Why not do something kind of dumb like that and have 2 separate leagues and have 4 teams in each division play each other 4 times a year? They just beat the heck out of each other. That'd be kind of fun, wouldn't it? I think that'd be a little dumb, but it'd be kind of fun, right? But yeah, so the Islanders make some moves today. The MSG crowd getting a little bit, more finalized with the roster format. So I'm liking where the Islanders are at, because the Metro Division is going to be very weird. Because the Washington Capitals are not going to have Nicholas Backstrom. Yes, you have Darcy Kemper coming in there, but that's Darcy Kemper joining a whole new system and a very different system than from what he saw in Colorado, right? And also, it's a different setup in Philadelphia, because now you're bringing John Tortorella back for some reason. And Chuck Fletcher, I don't know what Chuck Fletcher is doing in Philadelphia. What was the gradings we saw? Was it Dom Lucian put out the ratings from the Athletic saying, people's grades of their team from the individual fan bases. And I believe, what is it? It's Philadelphia. Philadelphia was a D-. What was the other team that had a D-? There was another team that had a D-. I can't remember off the top of my head, but Philly was one of them. So Philly's going to be interesting. Pittsburgh is going to be good still. They'll find a way. Ron Hextall and Brian Burke will find a way to put a good team on the ice with Sidney Crosby and Malkin still there. Yeah, they kept Chris Letang. They kept Malkin. I mean, and you still have Gensel. If you see another great year from Tristan Jarry, that's awesome. If Casey DeSmith's there backing him up and playing well, that's even better. I think this is a good Pittsburgh Penguins team that can only continue to improve for sure. The Devils, I don't know. They bring in Vitek Vanacek, which we kept saying with this Devils team is they just need a goaltender to make a save. Mackenzie Blackwood, I don't want to say he's not going to pan out, but it's certainly not looking positive from his aspect. And really, since 2018, there hasn't been a solid goaltender in the New Jersey Devils system. Granted, even in 2018, when they made the playoffs last, it was either Keith Kincaid or Corey Schneider, and literally it was a coin flip to see who was in net on some nights for the Devils. So that's going to be interesting to see how that fits in. I think they'll be better. The Rangers are literally playing on thin ice. And I'm going to say this the nicest way I possibly can. They are a good team, got good scorers, but if Igor Shesterkin for some reason gets hurt, now with Yaroslav Halak back there as his backup, the Rangers are in trouble. That's the thing. They're the most fragile team, I think, in this division, because if Igor Shesterkin's not playing Vezina caliber last season, they don't make the playoffs. If he doesn't play Vezina caliber this year, I think the team has confidence where they can maybe work their way into another wild card spot. But don't tell me that if Igor Shesterkin gets hurt and misses 20 to 30 games, that this team has a shot at making the playoffs. So that's why the Rangers, I think, are really going to be interesting. It's more or less just watching Shesterkin, and anytime anything is around him in the net, because if he gets bumped in the head, twists a knee, puck to the groin, something bad that he has to pull him out of a game and has him miss extended time, maybe not puck to the groin, you can usually come back from that in about 5-10 minutes. But you get my point. It's going to hurt the Rangers more than anything. Who am I missing from the Metro? Carolina will be good. Carolina might be my pick right now to win the division. Honestly, it's hard not to, just because I'm giving this laundry list of reasons why the Islanders might find their way into the top 4, because who knows with some of these teams, who knows how they're going to end up. Who am I missing from the Metro? I said the Rangers, said the Devils, Islanders, the Philadelphia teams, Carolina. Who the heck am I missing? Oh my gosh, this is hurting me now. This is hurting me. Oh, Columbus. Oh, sorry, Columbus. Forgot you were there. You only signed Johnny Hockey to, long-term 8-year contract, but I don't know about Columbus, man. They have Elvis Merzlikins, and he's a good goaltender and whatnot, and Korpisalo's there, and he's a good goaltender as well. But man, I don't know. I don't know. When one of your big notable signings is Eric Branson, I don't know, man. I don't know how good you're going to be. Yes, you bring in an offensive weapon like Johnny Hockey, and yeah, you have Zach Werenski still, and I don't know. I don't know how it's going to work. I don't think they might be competitive, but it's going to be one of those things. If the goaltending's great, they'll be in the thick of it. But if it's not like it was last year, it might not be going well. So that's my thoughts on those teams for sure. So, like I said, no disrespect to Columbus or anything like that, but Philadelphia is my pick to finish last. Put that out there right now. Philly, last. Dead last in this division. Nobody, I'm not saying I'm cheering for a team to finish last place, but if there's a team that I am 100%, I am ready for them to fall to 8th. Cheesy Bacon back in there in the chat as well, saying, I honestly hate the Rangers. Hate's a strong word. But then Hudson Graham says, Rangers had a good season. 100% Hudson. I don't disagree with that at all. But if your Vezina caliber goaltender goes down, and we're going to get to this guy here in a second, when talking about Carey Price, MVP in 2015, blows his knee out the next season, and the Habs sucked. They were bad without Carey Price. Carey Price comes back in 2017. They won the division, won the Atlantic Division. That was a pretty darn good team they had. And then Carey Price got hurt again, and it went down south again. Carey Price drags the team to the Stanley Cup Finals because he's playing on his A game, and then misses the entire year. And where does Montreal go? Back down the pooper. That's kind of the thing with goaltenders and Igor Shesterkin. So if Shesterkin stays healthy, man, yeah, the Rangers will be right there in the thick of it for the Metro title. But if he falters at all or goes down, might be a tough go for the Blue Shirts. But with that, allow us to turn over to Carey Price. All right. If you follow me on Twitter at TJKU29, if you don't see it, of course, if you're watching us live, it's right at the bottom of the screen here. If you're listening to us, I probably should mention, that's why I said it for the podcast listeners. When I heard the report Eric Engels put it out there saying that they're very unsure that Carey Price might not come back this season, might not play at all this season. Because just the way he's had a setback with recovering from knee injury. Because I guess I'm not shocked, but he was not 100% when he came back at the end of last season. I think it was one of those where he wanted to see if he could play. But Kent Hughes, I've heard, has made it known that Carey Price will not be with the team at the beginning of the season and might not play at all. And for myself, a guy who has tried to emulate his game after, obviously very unsuccessful. Yeah, I mean, no offense to you folks at home, but there's a reason why I'm doing this because I was not quite Carey Price level of goaltending. But it's tough for myself to think of a game because, man, this guy's been around now for what? 07-08 was his first full season. 14 years. It's hard for me to think of the Montreal Canadiens without Carey Price. And I mean like gone Carey Price. Not, he's missing 6 months with an injury Carey Price because, well, that's happened a time or two in his career, unfortunately. Thank you, Chris Kreider, for that. And really has done everything about it. But, man, it's going to be tough for me because Carey Price, it's the best goal. He might be, in my eyes, man, him and Roberto Luongo, like the two best goaltenders to never win a Stanley Cup. Both made it to one final in their entire careers and both lost. Both had an entire country on their back and lost. And yeah, you can say it was Roberto Luongo's fault in 2011 compared to Carey Price in 2021. Because anyone who blames Carey Price and against Tampa, I'm sorry. That's what happens when all of a sudden you look a little mortal. Because Tampa was that good once again in 2021. But the guy that the man has fought through so much his entire career. Like you go back to the early years, right? When he was drafted. And everyone said, who the heck is drafting why are they drafting? They have Josie Theodore. They got Josie and the Pussycats back in net for Montreal. Why do they need to draft a goaltender? This kid from Tri-City, this youngster from this Roper. I remember him coming in his first couple of games, like, oh, this guy's pretty good. Okay, I can get behind this goaltender. You see the flashy saves, and then he went from the white pads to the red pads, and I threw it up on there. Hudson Graham saying, Lundqvist, best goalies not to win the cup. You're right, Hudson. I did forget about the goalie that played near the Hudson River, Henrik Lundqvist. My apologies for forgetting about King Henrik. But Carey Price, because then there was, of course, the whole 2010 playoff run where Yaroslav Halak came in and almost took Montreal to the Stanley Cup Finals. Had they not lost to the 8th-seeded Philadelphia Flyers, the 7th versus the 8th in the Eastern Conference Finals that year, I don't know if they would not have beaten Chicago. I don't know if they would have beaten Chicago or not. But it would have been an interesting series. But because I remember that, I said to myself, watching the Canadians get knocked out on Versus, this is how long ago it was, Versus down here in the States, and saying to myself, well, Carey Price ain't going to be here anymore because Yaroslav Halak's the guy. Then a few months later, and I remember this. I've seen the footage. There was footage that was recorded by TSN of a breaking news story that Rod Smith did a quick blip on, saying the Montreal Canadiens have traded Carey Price to the St. Louis Blues. That was the original trade, I guess the original trade rumor. And then all of a sudden out of the blue, Yaroslav Halak goes to St. Louis and Carey Price is the guy. Holy cow. I remember how angry Montreal fans were. And then Carey Price, all he did was take the eventual Stanley Cup champion Boston Bruins to 7 games in the opening round the next year. Was a Vezina candidate that year because he was that good. And, then he had the great year in 2014. Should have won that team. I think, talking about Henrik Lundqvist, I really think that had Carey Price not gotten hurt, I really think Montreal would have beaten LA. I really think Montreal was good enough to beat LA that year. And I know that's, you can say hindsight's 2020, whatever. And yes, LA had a great team. Jonathan Quick was still one of the best goaltenders. Drew Doughty and, Jake Muzzin were back on defense. They had Tyler Toffoli. They had Alec Martinez and Anze Kopitar. That team was stacked. But Montreal was just this band of scrappy guys that took down the President's Trophy winning Boston Bruins. They really, I thought, they hammered Tampa in the opening round. But remember, Tampa, of course, didn't have Stamkos or Ben Bishop. But I really thought that team was good enough. Then he had the MVP year in 2015. Then they lost to Tampa because, well, that was the good year Tampa because that was when they had Stamkos and they had Tyler Johnson and they had Ben Bishop. And then both Bishop and Johnson got hurt and they ended up getting killed by Chicago. I don't know if Montreal would beat Chicago that year, but regardless, my point was that was because Carey Price was that good. Then he gets hurt and then he literally took this team to the Stanley Cup Finals when they were the worst team. There were teams that were in other divisions in the separated 2021 season that were better than the Montreal Canadiens. Montreal finished, 3 points into a playoff spot, even though they had a massive lead. They lost how many of their last 12 games? They were awful at the end of the regular season. They beat the division-winning Toronto Maple Leafs. They worked their way pretty easily through the Winnipeg Jets. They hammer the Vegas Golden Knights, and their reward, the Tampa Bay Lightning. And Carey Price, all of a sudden, it just, I went into that series thinking, man, this team's good enough. And I saw game one, and I said, this team is not good enough to do it. And it's not. And then it wasn't against Carey Price, man. He did everything he possibly could. Kept Mark Bergevin on the job for a little bit longer. That's no question. But the guy has done so much. And then, of course, everything that happened with him going to get help for substance abuse and whatnot. And that was huge for me because with him, he's always very private, right? He's always very quiet. And knowing he has kids and knowing how he loves his daughters. Holy cow. He is a girl dad, as my wife likes to say. My wife thinks I could be a good girl dad. I'm like, no, Carey Price is a darn good girl dad. I would just be a dad who has girls probably. But it took me back to realize, that even I remember I had the same thing with Robin Leonard, with Bobby Ryan. It was when big name players admit when they need help, it makes you forget that they're an all-star, a legendary player, goaltender. It is that they are also a person. And that's why I always love Carey Price, because while he was never the most outgoing, wouldn't go crazy during an interview, you could tell he was a very personable guy. And that's why I always love Carey Price. So this is it for Carey Price. Damn, what hell of a career. I know people are, there's already a discussion, should he be a Hall of Famer? I don't know. It's one of those things, and people are like, oh, are they going to retire 31 at the rafters of the Bell Center? I don't know. I'd like to think so, but it's one of those things where you wonder if it's because, if Montreal, because he didn't win a cup, if Montreal ever raised a banner, because they only raised the numbers of players that won cups. I mean, never see Saku Koivu's number 11 go up there, right? As great as that guy was and the great things he did in Montreal, he never won a cup. And I think and that might be the telling story if Carey Price's number ever gets retired. But in my heart, my eyes, Carey Price's number should get retired, because I just think if there was a goaltender that had no business being as good as he was and having a team that should not have been nearly as good as it was, it's because of their goaltender, Carey Price. And truth be told, you can kind of look at that back with Patrick Waugh as well during his time in Montreal. The team was always great because they had the best goaltender in the league. Now, yes, Patrick Waugh's number got retired because he won 2 cups. So, Sean Butcher, hello. Jumping in the chat. Perfect time, Sean, because we're going to break. No, Sean Butcher, the peanut butter man. How am I doing? Well, I'm good now that I'm done talking about Carey Price, because I love that man to death. And if this is it, I'm happy for him. Goes out on his own terms, I hope. I hope that's how it goes. He wants to play, but I just hope for his well-being, for his well-being forever, because that's all I can ever ask for of a great guy like Carey Price. With that, folks, we'll take a break. When we come back, We're going to tell Donnell Weaver and all of you about the Women's World Championship. Starts up this Thursday, guys. We'll preview it next here on World Hockey Report.
College football is back, and it's time to enjoy the tradition, the fun, and the great offers from DraftKings Sportsbook. To celebrate the best time of the year, right now, new customers can bet just $5 on any team and get $200 in free bets instantly, win or lose. If that's not enough action, you can also place the same game parlay for a shot at an even bigger payout. Just combine multiple bets into one, like which team will get the win, which team will score first, and more. I love that. Whoever scores first and who wins, that's my go-to every time. College football Saturday, the absolute best. DraftKings is a safe, secure, and reliable. Best of all, you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code THPN. Bet just $5 on college football and get $200 in free bets instantly. That's code THPN only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Use THPN when signing up on DraftKings Sportsbook today. Travel the world and watch sports with Sports Travel Tours. How about the English Premier League? Get up close at one of the F1's Grand Prix from Monaco to Singapore and beyond. To the NFL packages, the games in London and to any across the U.S. Watch the Oilers and Flames with road trip packages to Vegas and beyond. Or if you're a hockey nut like us, the Spangler Cup is a must-see event. Watch Canada this December in Davos at our favorite championship of the year. For details and more, visit sportstraveltours.com today.
Get ready to win with Billy's Smelling Salts. Billy's Smelling Salts are for gamers, athletes, and competitors alike who want to get in the zone. Us at World Hockey Report teamed up with Billy's, and if you use the promo code WHR when checking out, you'll save yourself some money. The highest quality smelling salts in the game and at the best price point if you use the promo code WHR on Billy's. Billy's Smelling Salts. Get ready to win.
And welcome back here, everyone, here to World Hockey Report on this Monday, August 22nd from ProRocc Hockey Studios. And I tell you what, guys, it's a nice, relaxing day. I'll be honest with you, I did not chug a big iced coffee before the show like I usually do because, one, I don't know, I just didn't feel like it. I felt like I was going to be good enough. So, yes, I'm not bouncing off the walls crazy. And two, it just seems like one of those days with how nice it is outside. I'm going to go out, I'm going to sit on my back porch, I'm going to fire up the grill, I'm going to grab a beer or two and enjoy a nice, lovely evening in West Michigan. After I do like 2 more hours of work, because let's be honest, the day does not have enough hours, of course. So, I'm also doing a great job with this show right now, and with that, I'm avoiding watching Manchester United versus Liverpool. I'm a big Man U fan, and I went into today dreading, and I mean DRing this match against Liverpool because Man U has really stunk. They lost to Brentford and Everton to start the year for you Premier League fans. And I was not too sure they were going to win today, but apparently they're up 1-0 right now. Last time I checked, so maybe things are turned in a corner. Ooh, are we at the? Hold on, are we? Does this thing just pop up? Is this new? This is new. Cool. Oh, this isn't new. This was old. Never mind. Sorry, there was an athletic article that popped up on my feed that was talking about the best broadcast in the National Hockey League. I forgot that was one from June. So I can't comment on that too much because, well, if it already happened, why would I talk about it again? So let's talk about the Women's Worlds. There we go. Sorry, got sidetracked for a second. Saw a couple things pop up. Donnell Weaver asked about, Women's Worlds. I didn't know they had their own tournament. Well, they do. It is this week. Starts this week in Denmark, in Herning and Fredericksburg. Frederickshaven. Frederickshaven. I don't know how to say it. I'm not great for some reason with saying things today. Yeah, I'm an anchor, by the way. I'm supposed to be allegedly able to talk, but I can't right now. Anywho, the Women's World Championship starts up in Denmark this week, and this is going to be exciting because remember last year we saw the August tournament in Calgary. Yes, there was no fans allowed. There'd be fans, obviously, this time in Denmark. It'll be kind of interesting to see how this tournament goes. Like I said, the times are not awful. The first game is at 9 o'clock, and the last game starts at 1:30 Eastern time. So, yeah, a little bit tougher for the Mountain Time folks. 7 o'clock, obviously, and then, 11:30 then for the second game of the day. But I turned the music down. I realized that was still on. I just realized the music was still on in the background. My bad. Women's World Championships are going to be good this year because here's I will say this with the Women's Worlds because we're going to go through the groups here in just a second. I understand why they put Canada and the U.S. in the same group and they make Group A just top heavy and all 5 teams get to advance in the quarterfinals. But I wonder if they'd ever want to change it up like the World Juniors and where, you know what, you might have 2 top-end teams just run through their respective groups and it might be only 2 teams really favored to do well in each group. But I want to see it spread out because I really don't like the fact that one group only has 3 teams that make it. I maybe call me old-fashioned, old school, whatever you want to say, but I really like the idea of having 4 from each group move on. Maybe we'll get there someday, but obviously not right now. But let's go through the groups here. Obviously, Group A is going to have the U.S., Canada, and they're going to have Finland, Switzerland, and Japan. Japan moving up from Group B last year. However, that might be not the best for them this year. Completely agree, Sean. Thank you very much, buddy. I will say, though, the Americans are going to be good. I think the Americans are coming into this tournament ticked off because they have lost back-to-back major tournaments for the first time in, I believe, no, it wasn't 2018. I believe it's been 10 years. Because remember, I was talking about this, that because the Americans, yes, they won in 2018, and they won the gold in 2017 as well. Americans had dominated up until a year ago in Calgary, except for the 2014 and 2010 gold medals in the Olympics. The U.S. had Canada's number for a lot of it, and they're going to really come back because they didn't like the fact they lost last year in overtime, and then they got beat up in the gold medal game. Hudson Graham is heading out. Everyone, hey, see you later there, Hudson. Good to see you. Dylan, thank everyone. Sure to like the video. Yes, be sure to like the video, everyone. Thank you very much for watching here. World Hockey Report here live here from the ProRocc Hockey Studios. Thank you very much, Dylan, for helping us out as well. From all the guys and gals over there at the Hockey Podcast Network. Great folks over there. But the Americans, it's funny. It's a little different this year for this tournament because no Alex Cavallini in goal, even though we found out after the Olympics that actually she was playing with like a torn ACL in the gold medal game. So we're going to be looking at Nicole Hensley, former Lindenwood goaltender, and Maddie Rooney as the goaltenders for the U.S. in this tournament. And they brought out their usual suspects. Hillary Knight's there, Amanda Kessel's there, Megan Keller's there, Kendall Coyne-Schofield, Abby Rock, Jesse Comfer, Hillary Brandt, and this is a very deep team. The Americans and Canadians, of course, always bring in really good teams. But I really, really like where the Americans stand based on the fact that, like I said, they're going to come in a little bit more determined. They're going to come into how Canada entered Calgary last year because they have something to prove. Because like I said, the Americans hadn't lost back-to-back major tournaments like this in a long time. And also the fact that this is also the first year that in an Olympic year, the World Championships are held. They've simply determined for the longest time that whoever wins in the Olympic year, that's the World Championship for the year. So this is why it's kind of interesting. This year, they moved to August, so there's enough time for players to relax because they usually have it in April and shortly after the men's World Championships. So it was always kind of overshadowed by the Stanley Cup playoffs and whatnot. So that's why they moved to August, where it's like, hey, look, hockey uninterrupted by other things. So it's gonna be a good U.S. American team. I think they're probably gonna. They might finish atop this group. I mean, Canada's going to have something to say about it. They bring back Anne-Renee Desbiens to the Canadians in net, who was masterful, made some huge saves in the Olympics, was fantastic during the World Championships last year. Jocelyn The Rock, I think, was a a real breath of fresh air on defense. I really liked her game. Aaron Ambrose and Renata Fast obviously were great as well. No Melody Daou this year, though. Melody Daou, of course, who led the team in scoring during the tournament last year in the World Championships. She's not playing this year, but they're still really for them. Jamie Lee Rattray is back on the team. Sarah Nurse, Brianne Jenner, Sarah Fillier. I mean, this is and Sarah Fillier, who really think impressed a lot of people in the Olympics as well. So it's going to be U.S. and Canada, most likely, right? I don't think any of us are disagreeing with that, because unlike 2019, from what we saw from Finland, which we'll get to here in just a moment, there isn't a whole lot to really step up and, try to turn things in favor of one team or another. I think this is going to be very interesting. And, oh, look at this. Who is this? What is this? Ladies and gentlemen, just jumping on the show, coming out of left field, it's none other than our other host of World Hockey Report. It's Cody Jansen. Cody, how are we doing, buddy?
What's up? Thought I'd swing by the office. Saw you were in here doing something.
Yeah, I was doing stuff today. I was about to say, I'm like, is the show that bad that you need to come in and steal it and everything? How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. No, I was just listening to it, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to hop on because I've heard your thoughts, and I thought you've got great thoughts as well. But for Canada, have you touched on the goaltending situation for the Women's World Championships yet?
It looks like it should be Anne-Renee Desbiens, unless that changed in the last 25
Well, I know,
minutes.
but what do you think about the others? You think there's a chance that she gets knocked off the pedestal?
I would like to think that we'd see some change, but it's one of those things where I think, here's the thing with the PWHPA is that there's so many goaltenders and so many good goaltenders. And I think Kristen Campbell might be the 1B or the number 2 in this scenario. Emmerance Maschmeyer is the other goaltender, the third stringer for Canada. It's one of those things where if it's, before the break, we're talking about Carey Price. Had Carey Price never gotten injured, would he have, he was Canada's goaltender for an extended period of time for good reason. And, Anne-Renee Desbiens, that kind of goaltender. So I like her staying in net, and until she has a bad game. If she poops the bed in that, in the group finale against the Americans, might be a different story. I'm not sure.
Do you think Hensley or Rooney goes for the States?
Well, I'm not shocked because I mentioned that because Alex Cavallini is not even on the roster this year. And that's because of her. Remember she played the gold medal game in the Olympics with a torn ACL or a messed up knee. And everyone's like, well, why did, and she made some big saves
remember that.
game.
Yeah.
But everyone was just like, so why didn't you play Rooney or, Nicole Hensley? There's other talented goaltenders on this team. So it's going to, you and I both know this. Goaltenders really end up being deciding factors in tournaments like this. We just saw it I think, Dylan Garand didn't have to be a superstar goaltender, but we've seen Canada in the World Juniors lose because of bad goaltending. So it's one of those things where if you get the right guy playing at the right time,
Malcolm Subban.
Yeah, he didn't do too bad at all. So, that's why I think, it's going to be Desbiens and probably Rooney going to be going at it for the Americans and Canadians. The interesting one, though, and maybe this is just me being a women's hockey nut. Last couple of tournaments, I've been infatuated with Japan, but unfortunately, Nana Fujimoto, who has been their number one goaltender, is not playing this year. She was one of the best goaltenders in the world last year, helped them get out of Group B and move up to Group A. And now she's not playing this year because she's got knee injury. So Japan, who just got moved up to Group A to join the big dogs for this tournament, they might not be doing so well. It's going to be a rough time for them. But thankfully, like I was talking about Jana earlier, all 5 teams in Group A get to move on to the quarterfinals because why separate all the good teams and have them only play once in a tournament, I guess.
Is Denmark going to get smacked around or what?
Well, man, I don't know.
If it takes you that long to answer, I think we know the answer.
Well, here's the thing about Denmark, because Sweden is back in the turn. They weren't in the Worlds last year. Sweden was not. And they didn't really fare that well in the Olympics at all. Group B, yes, Group B is the very definite B group here. And Hungary was kind of funny last year. I really liked Hungary's game just because it was their first ever tournament. They have Fanny Gasperix coming back, who was their leading scorer, scored a couple goals. They fell just out. But I think Germany's got a new goaltender as well. I expect Sandra Abstrader or Franziska Albel to be their goaltenders. Germany had one of the best goaltenders last year in Jennifer Harris, and she's not playing again this year. Czechia will probably finish at the top of Group B because they have Elena Mills and Vendula Privliova, who are definitely, I mean, they've been their two top scorers in each of the last two major tournaments. So Denmark, though, I literally looked at the roster and I'm like, it's the only team that I look at this tournament and say, I have no idea who these girls are. I'm like, I have no idea. They might go 0 for 4, and I wouldn't like that. Might be Hungary's one win in the tournament is against Denmark. But then again, what we saw from the World Juniors, Latvia got into the quarterfinals, so maybe Hungary beats Germany or somehow beats Sweden. Even though, Sweden has Emma Soderberg, so I don't think they're going to lose a whole lot. Even though you and I both know Sweden, the way they've treated their women's national program over the last half decade is an absolute travesty. Because can you name
which is insane because they've got the third best women's league in the world.
Yeah,
if not the second best.
That's the craziest part. Yeah, well, let's say there's only one league over here in North America for now. But no, that's my point is, it's the greatest trivia question. Who is the only team that's not named the United States or Canada to play in a gold medal game in the Olympics? Sweden, 2006. Like, people forget about that. And then there's you can go into 2019 and Sean Butcher says Japan has a hockey team. And I'm like, I have to remind myself, Cody, not all of us stood up until 11 o'clock at night or 1:30 in the morning to watch Olympic hockey. I guess maybe that's just me.
Well, and I like that actual conversation. I think it's funny that, people, they'll joke about it. You'll see it on Twitter too, but honestly, it's a good conversation for, us just to be talking about some of these smaller countries that'll never get the spotlight anywhere else, right? Like you'll watch SportsCenter, you'll never see anything. It's, they're forced to talk about Canada and USA. And for me, frankly, like, you know how it is, Tyler. I really don't give a damn about the tournament until it comes to the final. But also, if I see Germany taking on Hungary in round robin play on a Tuesday, you're damn right I'm going to be glued to it. I'm going to watch every single second of it. Like, that's just how I am as a hockey fan, though. When I figure, we're both honest people here. Like, it's going to be Canada.
Well, I've been lying this entire time. Did I actually tell you I hate Carey Price? No, I'm kidding.
No, look, I love the hockey scene. I love educating people on it. And I think that's really the whole basis of World Hockey Report, which is so cool for us.
Right. But I will say this. I'll mention, we'll get a little bit more here into this with Finland here. But I looked up the schedule today and I talked to a couple folks over at the Ice Garden because we're trying to figure this out. The broadcasting schedule itself for TV, at least in North America, Janner, it's shocking. You ready for this? Last year, they at least had, I remember they had the games on ESPN Plus, like a lot of the Group B games, but only the American and Canadian games on NHL Network and TSN are getting broadcasted. No,
well, I believe TSN, don't correct me, but I'm 98% TSN's going to have them all. They're just going to be on that TSN Direct.
Oh, okay. So that's what I was looking up for. I was looking for TV streams, right?
Yeah, no, TV. They're not running them on like TSN 4 and 5 like they were in the past when they had zero things to run.
Right. Which is funny because it's August. I know we're gearing up for football, but that's a different story for a different time. But I know the IHF because I remember when the World Championships were going on around the time of the playoffs. I was in Mauritius. So I wasn't geo-blocked, so I was able to watch. They would live stream the games on IHF.com, which I believe they're probably going to do again. But it's one of those things where I'm just like, was it because last year was in Calgary, they broadcasted all the games, you think? Because now it's in Denmark 100%. And it's overseas, and they don't want to spend money to send people over there. I was joking with someone. I'm like, hey, I have a TV monitor. I have a very nice microphone and a good sound setup. Let me call the darn game, for goodness sakes. Just give me a little TSN banner over top, and we'll call it even. We'll do a profit sharing with it. If it ever makes money, then you can pay me. No,
it's all cost. It's all cost conservative, right? We're like Calgary. At least there's a TSN hub out of there, right? You can get all the staffing. You've got everything you need in house. WinSport's an awesome facility to send people over to Denmark. It just, does it financially make sense for them? No, because they're not making money off this tournament. So you got to try find the most cost effective ways possible. And it sucks again, because you and me are the type of people who would tune into a game at 7 a.m. Doesn't matter who's playing. Yeah. But end of the day, we're not their customer that's making them money.
Right. But it's just so weird just because of how much hype there was going into last year's tournament where there were no fans. You remember at WinSport in Calgary, there's no fans there. How much hype went into that game and how literally the women's Olympic tournament was probably I'll be honest with you, was probably the best part of the Olympics last year. I mean, the men's tournament had some great moments. Congratulations to Finland and all, and Juraj Slafkovský and all that stuff. But let's be honest, the women's tournament was the best. And all the hype coming out of that was like, this was the greatest thing ever. Now it's like, and we're back to square one where we barely broadcast any of the games.
But it usually is the best, and that's just because the peak or the pinnacle is so much higher than the men's game right now, where Canada-USA women's hockey is the best rivalry going on in hockey. You know, it's, again, outside of the NHL, sure, Battle of Alberta is awesome, but if there's a hockey game I can pick to be an Olympic gold medal game, a primetime game, it's Canada-USA women's. That's why. That's why I kind of just laugh at the whole, the round robin just sucks. Like, I hate watching Canada just smack around everyone, and they'll play one kind of close game with USA. We'll be like, wow, this is good, but let's wait till the gold medal game. Like, just fast forward the tournament till that for me. But again, everyone's got their own, itch.
Right. And I agree with you there because yes. But the thing is too, most of the time we see that in the World Junior Championships. I mean, they just hammered Slovakia 11-1. I mean, my goodness.
Oh, and I literally watched an hour total of the World Juniors. Probably the whole time. Like, even the gold medal game, we were at the keg and it's like on TV in the corner, but like,
you were not keg. You were living it up there, Janner.
Yeah, we're living it up in the keg. No, like, again, it just didn't have the lust. That's the exact same reason why the fans, weren't in the building for the most part of the tournament. It wasn't there, but you put Canada to USA Women's World Championship in Edmonton, gold medal games got 20,000 people there. You know 100%. Why? Because that's what people want to see. Also, interesting comment there coming through in the chat. In our opinion, what's the best league in Europe? Well, women's hockey, it's SDHL for sure. That's the best hockey league. Men's hockey, it's probably the SHL. I think that the NLA, the Switzerland league, is better now because they're allowing more imports. But Sweden's always got the depth in numbers.
Yeah. And I know people will say, but what about the KHL? And I just, it's one of those things where,
not Europe. That's Russia.
That's right. Russia's own thing. Well,
Russia was scared. Russia backed out of the Spangler Cup because they're scared to lose against European teams. They don't play in the Champions Hockey League anymore because they're scared to lose to European teams. They're just the highest paying league. Does that mean they're the best league in the world? I don't believe that for a second. They might have the best 4 teams, but look at the bottom end teams. They would get smacked around.
Literally, like I said, go to any Eastern Russian team. I mean, there is a drop off and a half.
Drastic.
If you're not St. Pete's or Moscow, it's bad.
Well, again, and there was players that were playing tier 3 hockey in the States that ended up playing on the China team. You can't tell me that the KHL league or pound for pound is that much better than the other leagues. I won't believe it.
Let's say the Champions League starts now. You mentioned the Champions League; they start.
I love it. Right? Do you? Are you a Champions League guy?
If I'm up early enough in the day, let's say they start in September 1st. The first game is Rogel taking on, I can't say this name, Katowice. GKS Katowice.
I
can't remember what league
that's in. There you go. Poland versus Sweden. I love it. I love all that.
Stuff. That's the funny thing. Like, it's people like, what is Champions League hockey? I'm like, do you know about UEFA Champions League? Like, well, yeah, kind of. Like, imagine that, but hockey. Like, you'll have Poland take on a Swedish team, or it's and like in soccer, if you see a Swedish team play an English team, that's pretty one-sided for the English side. If you see an English team play a Swedish team in the Champions Hockey League, well, it's the other way around, but it's still pretty cool to see, an English elite team go up against.
It's unbelievable. Anyone's got to check it out. If you're a hockey fan, those are some awesome games too. But okay, I got to run. Shout out Dylan, Sean, Adam, everyone in the chat. Love seeing you guys there. We'll talk soon. T Cool. Have a great show, buddy.
Janner,
now that I've hacked it.
Now you just straight up hacked you hacked my show. How dare you throw my piece of tape? Oh my, I almost hit the camera. That could have been bad. You take care, buddy. All right. We'll check out soon. Cody Jansen, ladies and gentlemen, jumping in on the show today. And that's probably a good way to wrap it up there. Here's my picks. I talked about Finland. I probably should mention Finland. Finland's probably my pick for bronze. Come up here in the World Championships, Women's World Championships, trying to reroute it back to the original point of the conversation. Mary Risinen is going to be their starting goaltender. She has been one of their top rising goaltenders for a while, and they've had some really good goaltenders too over the years. Finland has, and Finland, of course, Finland in a goaltending, it's a literal like assembly line of production for goaltenders. The laundry list is long for the guy side, and it's actually getting pretty long for the girl side too. Mary Risinen actually just signed with the Connecticut Whale of the Premier Hockey Federation, so we're actually going to be seeing her on this side of the pond coming up this fall in the new PHF season. The players you're going to have to watch out for Finland for sure. They have some really, really good players up front. Susanna Tapani, who actually plays, speaking of China, she plays for the Vankares in the Chinese league. She has been one of their top scorers. I think she was their top scorer in Beijing last year. Petra Nieminen has been one of the most consistent players over the long time as well. She was their top scorer at the Worlds last year. The other player to watch out for, speaking of Sweden, plays for Frölunda Gothenburg, the women's team, Michelle Karvinen. She will also be there for Finland. And I think that those three itself are going to help them. They'll probably finish third in the Group A. They'll probably finish with the bronze medal. I will pick, though, it's almost like at this point, it's not who's going to make it to the gold medal game. It's not who's going to win the bronze medal. It's who's going to finish fourth. Who's going to make it to the semifinals? I don't know. Switzerland has Andrea Brandley in net, who literally faces more rubber than Curtis Joseph when he was with Edmonton. Like, it's so crazy how they are. So I might pick the Swiss. I'll be honest with you. I think Czechia can scare some people, but I don't know if they're going to be good enough. If I'm going to say, because the way it works is the top 5 teams make it out of Group A, and it goes 1 versus 5 in Group A. So in this case, we'll say Canada finishes again, and it'll be Canada, the US taking on Japan. The 1 versus 5. And then Finland would face, I'll say Germany finishes third. So it'll be Sweden versus Germany. And then that leaves Finland taking on the Swedes and Swiss taking on the Czechs. And I honestly think whoever wins the game between the Czechs and the Swiss, well, that will pretty much determine it, because I don't think Finland will lose to Sweden, and I don't think Japan's pulling off an upset against the Americans or Canadians or whatever. So, but I like Czechia. I'll put Czechia as my team that finishes fourth. They'll finish top Group B. They'll finish fourth. And for my pick to win the whole kit and caboodle, oh man, this is tough. I'm not ready for this. Who's going to pick it? Doesn't North Korea? Cheesy Bacon says, doesn't North Korea have a team for men's? They had a combined for the Korean games he's talking about here, the ones in South Korea back in 2018. They did have a Korean Republic men's and women's team. So technically, yes, technically, no. Even though, let's be honest, the guys' team was mainly filled up with players that just happened to be playing in Korea and were domesticated. Similar to what we saw with the Chinese team, too, in the Olympics this past February. But Canada over the U.S. to win the gold medal. I don't know. Do I pick the Canadians because I think they might actually win, or I pick the Americans because I think that they're actually, I mean, they are good enough. Both teams are good enough to win, obviously. Who should I pick? This is a great question. Because, like I say, look at the goaltending. Most likely Maddie Rooney starting for the Americans and Renee Desbiens going for the Canadians. Defensively, they're pretty even. I may think Jocelyn Larocque and Renata Fast might give a little bit more depth than the Americans. Up front, though, it's just wide open scoring. If both teams' offenses get going, the goaltending itself might not even matter. I'm going to give a slight edge to the Americans because I think with Abby Rock and, with her there, I think they might be a little bit younger. Marie-Philippe Poulin, even though she's still Captain Canada, is getting older. You know what? No, you're right. MPP's there. Pooh's there. Canada wins. They beat the Americans. When 29's on the ice, we're in the Maple Leaf. I'm sorry. It's too easy to pick. It's almost wrong to pick against Marie-Philippe Poulin. And that, folks, is how we're going to end today's program. That is a great way to end it. Picking Canada to win gold at the Women's World Championships, U.S. to win silver, Finland to win bronze over Czechia. And obviously, we talked about a great, wonderful tournament at the World Junior Championships. Canada taking care of business over Finland in what might be considered one of the greatest gold medal games ever, going back to Hutton's point earlier in the show. But that'll be all for this one, folks. Got to remind you, though, I got to tell you, travel is back, so why not book a trip to your dream sports event with Sports Travel Tours? That's right. They have NHL trips as well as the Spangler Cup, NFL, F1, Premier League packages, and more at sportstraveltours.com. Be sure to go there and check it out, guys. Also, be sure to go to SeatGeek and use the promo code WHR to get $20 at SeatGeek when you use the promo code. Save some money when you go to sporting events and when you buy tickets online, like we all do pretty much nowadays. So, yeah, thank you very much. Once again, thanks for Cody Jansen for jumping in there, because that was kind of neat. Because, first of all, I hadn't talked to Jan in a little bit. And he's always a fun guy to talk hockey with, and European hockey as well. We love talking about that sort of stuff. So, with that, I'm going to bid you all adieu. Thank you all very much for watching this episode of World Hockey Report. Be sure to follow us at World Hockey RPT from the ProRocc Hockey Studios, of course. Follow me at the Insider Tyler Kuehl at TJKU29. And be sure to also follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Wherever you follow your hockey, follow World Hockey Report. Thank you all guys very much. Thank you for enjoying the rest of us on social media and whatnot. A great World Junior Tournament, and let's get ready for an exciting Women's World Championships. We'll see you guys next time.